Hello, I am Dr. Bhaskar Shanai, Head of the Department of Pediatrics at Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of havoc in the life of people across the globe, both economically, physically, health issues and psychologically also. And now there is a saying that the third wave is going to come. And related to the third wave of the COVID-19, there are a lot of issues, lot of questions which are coming in the mind of the public and the parents. So I am going to address some of the issues. The first question is, what is the possibility of COVID-19 third wave in the coming months? COVID-19 or any viral infection, if you look at the behavior of the pandemic, it comes in waves. So now we had a pandemic of influenza around 1920, and that also came in 3 waves. Similarly, this COVID-19 is going to come in waves, and we have already experienced 2 waves, and the third wave might be coming, but the severity of the wave we really don't know. The third wave is likely to be less severe than the first 2 waves. If you look at the first and second waves were very severe, the third wave may not be that severe. That is because when there is population immunity, that means the people in the community have a lot of antibodies against the virus in their body, the severity of the wave comes down. Now, as I told, the people, once they get immunity because of the previous infection or vaccination, there is always a small pool of people who are neither vaccinated nor got the disease. And most of the children belong to that, because we never have vaccination till now for children. So children are at a higher risk because they have not developed antibodies either due to disease or due to the vaccination. So there is a possibility that the third wave might affect the children, but the severity may not be as predicted or as discussed in the media. In fact, children do not get severe disease. If you look at the previous 2 waves, children got infected, children got symptoms, but they got mild disease. The number of children who had severe disease is very, very low, 0.1% I can say. That means the need for admission, the need for oxygen, the need for ventilation, the need for critical care, ICUs, and need for medications is very, very less in children. Children have not got severe disease. The severe disease, 2 forms. One is pneumonia, the second is MIS-C. Pneumonia getting due to COVID in children is very low, and these people, even if they get, they have recovered very well. So that means children are less affected. The complications are very less. That is because the virus doesn't get attached to the receptors which is responsible for getting into the body of the host. What I mean to say is that for the virus to get into the body of the human being, it should get attached to the receptor which is there in the respiratory tract mucous membrane. And in children, this mucous membrane receptors are not well developed. So the children do not get severe disease because the viral load will not be too much. The second thing is, we have been immunizing children due to against various diseases, be it measles, be it mumps, tuberculosis, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, etc. And with that, the body's immune system is trained to fight the viruses. So that probably is helping. The third thing is, the children immune system is robust, it is strong compared to the elderly people where it has undergone senescence. So with these, I think the children immune system is good, the severity of the disease is less, the complications are less, the need for oxygen and other complicated medical treatment is very, very less, and the death rate among children is very, very low, even less than 1% in the pediatric population. Yes, 1 in 1 lakh might be coming out with some form of disease that is called as a MISC. That means multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. That is not a direct effect of COVID virus. It is an abnormal immune response to the virus occurring after few weeks of the COVID illness. That means child might have had COVID infection 6 to 8 weeks before, and after that, after 6 to 8 weeks, child comes out with fever, then tiredness, vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, red lips, red eyes, red tongue. There will be a swelling in the neck. There may be rashes. Child may be too tired, out of proportion. If you examine the blood pressure, BP may be low, and that kind of symptom or syndrome is called as MISC. But thankfully, it is not very common. 1 in 1 lakh of children who are affected with COVID get that syndrome after 4 to 6 weeks of the initial viral infection. One more complication is COVID pneumonia, which is more commonly seen in adults, but in children that is not very common, not seen often. So the MISC, if it is recognized early and if you institute the treatment very early and appropriate time, the complications can be minimized and child will recover well. The only problem with the MISC is that in 30 to 40% of the children, it can affect the heart vessels. There are some vessels, blood vessels supplying blood to the heart muscles, and this particularly affects that vessels, and that vessel can get dilated and cause complications. So we are more bothered about those things, and there is a medication called as IVIG. If we institute in time, these complications can be avoided. What would be the preparation if the third wave comes and affects the children? We have learnt a lot with the previous two waves. In the first wave, we never knew what to do, but in the second wave, we were more prepared and we knew what to do. Now with the third wave anticipation, we are prepared. That means it is a different group of patients, the small kids. They need specialized care. So the preparation should be at the individual level, the societal level, and the government level. From the administrative side and government side, they have been increasing the number of beds for children. Because if you look at most of the hospitals, the number of children allocated to beds is very small, except in few hospitals. And the ICU beds are very less, the high dependency beds are very less, and the trained people who can manage the intensive care in pediatrics is very less. So having said that, the government is trying to build up all the basic infrastructure needed to handle the eventuality. In the individual level, we need to protect our children by basic methods. The three most important things is the SMS: sanitization, masking, social distancing. These three things we need to teach the children from the very young age, so that they will get used to the basic principles of prevention. And we need to follow this. Some vaccines are being tried, because when the vaccine comes to children, it should have a thorough clinical trial. It should undergo robust studies to say that it is safe, it is effective, it is immunogenic. So these are the things they want to prove before it comes to the market. So in India, lot of places, centers are conducting trials for children between 12 to 18, 6 to 12, and in some time later below 6 years also. Now 2 to 6 years also one company is conducting the trial. So once these trials are done, once this is proved that it is safe and effective, then the governmental agencies will give permission to be used in the practice. So this process may take another 6 to 8 months. Till then we don't have any vaccine for children. The only vaccine is the social vaccine, so that the effective time of contact will be very less. If there is another member in the family who is COVID recovered and who has antibodies, he can handle this child who is COVID negative. But if the child is not negative and parents are positive, never send to grandparents' house. That's the usual practice in most of the situations, wherein if the parents are positive, they tend to send the children to the grandparents' house. In this process, the grandparents might get affected. That's because now when going to the grandparents' house, the child may be asymptomatic, but he may be harboring the virus in his body. After a few days, after going to the grandparents' house, he might transfer the virus to the grandparents who are aged, may be having some comorbidities, and they may get the infection and the severe disease. So ideally, if the parents are positive, never ever send them to another house. Keep the child with the parents. Follow COVID appropriate behavior. Don't panic. Get the child also tested after 3 to 4 days of exposure. If the child is positive and asymptomatic, nothing to be done. They will recover on their own. How to diagnose COVID-19 symptoms at home, and when should we visit the doctor? See, any child who are having symptoms in this pandemic season, it may be fever, it may be cough and cold, it may be loose motions, vomiting, abdominal pain, it may be excessive tiredness and inactivity. These are the few common symptoms. And if these are there, and especially if there is a contact person who is COVID positive at home, it is highly likely that this child may be having COVID-19 symptoms. And these children, we need to get tested with RT-PCR. And if it is positive, we should be isolating the child. Treat the fever with paracetamol only. See, most of the times it is only paracetamol which is advisable in these children. Whatever may be the degree of fever, use only paracetamol, and try to control the temperature by giving wet mopping, lukewarm water, whole body, you have to mop including the head. That will reduce the temperature more effectively, safely, easily. Never use medications like ibuprofen, mefenamic acid whenever child has high fever. So during the pandemic, the only safest medication for fever is paracetamol. Give more liquids. It may be tender coconut water, juices, soups, and normal diet he has to continue. And whenever an individual coughs, be it an adult in the family or the child, they should be following what is called as a cough etiquette. Cough etiquette means when the person coughs, he should hold the elbow like this and cough, not the hand. So these are and after coughing and after cleaning the nose and all, he should wash the hands properly. And if you use the tissue to clean the nose or mouth, you should throw it in a proper dustbin, not here and there. Otherwise, the virus will spread in the community. What are the probable chances of relapse of COVID in child who had already had COVID? So in general, any viral infection, once the person gets infection, they get antibodies. They develop antibodies in their blood, and that antibody protects them against subsequent episodes. But that is not 100% true with COVID, because the relapse of COVID infection has been found. It may not be very common, but few of the children who had recovered from COVID has got a relapse or a second episode of COVID-19 infection. So, moment you recover from the COVID, moment you are vaccinated, it doesn't mean that you are 100% safe. It doesn't mean that you are 100% protected. So, moment there is some, even if you are vaccinated, even if you have recovered, you have to follow all the appropriate behaviors related to COVID in the coming months. And children, some of the children have been reported to have a second episode. So it is better that we take appropriate precautions so that it doesn't recur again. Any duration of herd immunity in kids? See, herd immunity means a particular percentage of people in the community are getting antibodies and they are protected. Whenever an infection occurs, as I told, the body tries to produce some antibodies in response to the viral infection, and these antibodies fight against the infection and they try to clear the virus from the body. And with the subsequent viral exposure, these preformed antibodies are there in our blood, and that protects from subsequent infection most of the times. Herd immunity means in the population, all people, if they are getting antibodies, this antibody may be due to a natural infection or because of the vaccination. When at least 70% of the population in that particular country or in the particular state are immunized, then the virus cannot enter that community or cannot enter that country or cannot enter or cannot survive in that environment. So that is why government is more proactive in immunizing as much as people as possible. So 70% of the population at least might have protective antibodies in their blood or in the body, so that the virus may not be able to enter into that particular society. In the first wave, there was a lot of disruption in the immunization schedules of most of the children, and that is not a healthy sign, because in that COVID pandemic, we have forgotten other diseases, and with great difficulty, we have vaccinated all these kids and we have tried to protect them from those illnesses. If you are lax on the immunization schedule, the other vaccine preventable diseases may erupt again, they may come back again, and they may add more stress on the healthcare system in addition to the existing stress of the COVID-19. So it is important that we protect our children with appropriate vaccination, timely vaccination. Don't miss the vaccination. Antibiotic use unnecessarily should not be given. So we should not use antibiotic if there is no clear indication. So these are the few things that we need to follow to improve the health and immunity of the children during this COVID pandemic. It is very difficult to distinguish other viral infections from COVID infections very easily. All viral infections, they come with fever, they come with cough and cold. But in COVID-19, the severity is more. The cough, cold severity will be more. And unless you do a specific test, it is not possible to differentiate between other viral infections and COVID-19 infections. Any diagnostic tests recommended for COVID-19, especially in the first 48 to 72 hours, the gold standard test is RT-PCR. That is, taking a swab from the nose and mouth, that is the throat, that is the best method. Of course, there are sometimes about 2 to 3%, though they have virus in their body, may come negative and vice versa. So if FET is detected, it is 100% sure that it is positive. So RT-PCR is the best standard, gold standard test to diagnose COVID-19. There are some other tests like antigen tests. With the antigen test, the report comes very fast, but it may not be so sensitive. If the antigen test is positive, you need not again repeat the test for RT-PCR. Antigen positive means the patient is positive. But if the antigen is negative, it is not 100% sure that the child is negative, you have to do RT-PCR. That means if the antigen test is positive, you need not do RT-PCR. If the antigen test is negative, you have to do RT-PCR to doubly confirm that it is negative.